Hello everyone and welcome to the Opus Clip YouTube channel. Today we're going to talk about how you can stop posting random shorts and we're going to build a strategy. This is super important when it comes to long-term YouTube success, and I'm very excited that you're either here watching live or in the replay. Now, we're going to be fixing a lot of the common problems. So, a lot of times you'll post a short and it just doesn't perform. I know I've been there, and I know that with tools like Opus Clip, which is where we're live streaming today, it can really help you start understanding by some of the tools they've created how your shorts are performing, maybe why they're not performing as well, and giving you more guidance before you post a short. A lot of times, it's not that we don't know how to create, it's just maybe it's always good to have a second opinion, which is some of the things we're going to be talking about. So, again, if you feel like you're posting shorts and nothing's happening, we're not really alone there, and we're going to work on a repeatable system that you can use and implement so that we can create better content, which is ultimately the goal of Opus Clip, which is to empower us creators to just create better content. So, a little bit of what we're going to cover in this today is why random shorts fail, how to find the right kind of content to make for YouTube shorts, how Opus Clip can kind of help you pull winning moments automatically with some of their newer features, and how to build that repeatable system for shorts so you can actually make a plan and stick to it. So, I am really excited, and if there's anything you're struggling with when it comes to YouTube Shorts, please let me know in the chat. I'm going to be pulling some of your responses throughout the stream, and if you're watching the replay, you should comment too, because we might use those comments as a reply to YouTube Shorts. So I just want to give this moment to let some people come on and funnel in. Really excited to be here, and I have to say, one thing when it comes to creating content or YouTube Shorts or whatever it is that YouTube Shorts has recently made a pretty large change when it comes to how they're going to be handling the views. And we've talked about this in previous streams. So if you aren't subscribed, you should subscribe because we do these live streams bi-weekly. But when it comes to how YouTube has really changed the way they count views, is it's more in line with other platforms like TikTok and Instagram. And I think for me, having that kind of parity helps answer questions where people would ask, why am I doing so well on Instagram or TikTok, but I'm really not doing that well on YouTube Shorts? So I feel now it's a little more of an even playing field, at least compared to everything. And I know some creators are like, well, I'm not creating on those platforms. I'm only on YouTube Shorts. Why does it matter if it's in line? Well, if you ever do plan to move there, one, it's important to know what works on some platforms may not work on the others, but it's also good to have a easy comparable metric. And so it's still there. We still have engaged views, which are the old YouTube view stats in a way where it really kind of focused on that side of the house. But I also think it's important when it comes to YouTube shorts. You know, a lot of times people struggle with shorts because they don't know what to do. And if you're struggling with YouTube shorts, you're not alone. And I said that, and I'm going to keep saying that because YouTube says that repetition is reinforcement, and hopefully we can reinforce this idea. So a lot of times, a lot of YouTube creators just struggle with it. I know I have, especially when I first started with it, because it's a newer platform when it comes to YouTube. I mean, yes, it's been around for 5 years, but considering YouTube just celebrated 20 years at the time of this live stream and recording, I think it's important to keep in mind that 5 years is pretty new for a feature. And I think that that's one of those things we should keep in mind. So, one thing when it comes to random YouTube shorts is that it can confuse your audience if you're creating just whatever you want in the shorts platform. If a viewer doesn't know what to expect, they won't stick around or subscribe. And I think that one of the things to keep in mind, and I've seen this time and time again, is that you make long form videos on one type of content, but then your YouTube shorts have nothing to do with kind of that other side of the coin. And when you're making content, it's super important that there's a through line. It doesn't need to be the exact same thing, though that is a strategy. But if you are a content creator that, like Micah Flemons in the chat, who just reached 341 subscribers, shout outs by the way. But let's say Micah is creating content about farming. He's a farming YouTube channel. And then one day he's like, you know what? This is coffee. We are talking all coffee on his YouTube shorts. Well, if he's talking about farming on his main content and his shorts content, which is just as important, is talking about coffee, there's that level of disconnect. So random shorts can confuse your audience, and if a viewer doesn't know what to expect, it's kind of hard for them to stick around. So you need a consistent experience across your shorts, your long form, even your community content, make it really focused on what that audience is looking for, especially when it comes to shorts. And I think that is something that as we go on this stream, as we continue to discuss this more, you're going to see more and more. So, another thing I would say when it comes to it is that a random strategy, so just posting whatever comes into your head, can lead to random results. So, again, if you're making YouTube shorts, a random strategy is going to lead to random results. A more focused, audience driven, you're thinking of who's going to view your content first, is going to lead to those best results because when you're creating content with your audience in mind, whether it is using tools like YouTube's Trend tab, Opus Clip, or what have you, you're creating an experience for your viewer that is repeatable. It gives them something to look forward to. And most importantly, it builds trust with your user. So that's why a random strategy will lead to those random results, but that focus strategy can help you build momentum and hopefully long term growth. So I will say this as well. Not everything when it comes to YouTube needs to be a short, not everything needs to be a long form video. Sometimes it's finding which platform works best. I've had ideas that I've made full videos about, and if I'm being very critical, I look back, it could have been a YouTube short. And sometimes I didn't have enough time in it's up to 3 minutes at the time of the stream and recording, but maybe it should have been a video. Maybe I could have gone more in depth. And finding those two differences is super important. If you're just joining or you're in that replay, don't forget, what's your biggest struggle with YouTube shorts right now? Please be putting it in the comments because these are some of those things we can help answer. So now that we've kind of talked about, you need a consistent experience, random strategies lead to random results. I want, instead of thinking, what random or funny moment should I post, ask, how does this short fit into what I'm trying to do? How does it fit into the audience I'm trying to build on my YouTube channel? Not to say that you can't have fun and you can't be funny, but I've seen some YouTube shorts that have really done well. They're very funny, but they have nothing to do with what that channel is about. And then they'll come to us and they're like, hey, I have this YouTube short. It's getting hundreds of thousands of views, but it has nothing to do with what I'm talking about. And that's a hard spot to be in because at that point, you are building something that is not necessarily serving what you're trying to do. And so when that happens, it's super important that you can take a moment and you kind of sit back and reflect. And I actually want to pull up the Opus Clip YouTube channel, kind of give you an idea of some of those kind of content buckets we talked about a little bit earlier. And if you're watching, you should kind of pull this up in your own YouTube channel. Now, I've got to give a shout out to Greg Priest, who helps so much on the channel. There's so many people that make the Opus Clip YouTube channel. Obviously, the Opus Clip team does a great job. All of you watching help make the Opus Clip YouTube channel. And, whether it is No News Podcast, which news with a K, I love that. It's very helpful. And I think that one thing is very important is that when you are thinking of categories or themes for your channel, you want to make sure that it's something that is always clear, repeatable. And I say this with, I've seen people ask me, well, I don't want to just be known for the one thing, or I want to branch out. You can still branch out, but stay in theme. I've seen gardening channels, I keep bringing up gardening channels for some reason, but I've seen gardening channels actually explore people who grow their own unique ingredients, and maybe they are a gardening channel that teaches a baking channel, which is similar in the fact that food's involved, but maybe they teach them how to grow some of the ingredients, right? So if they're doing a strawberry shortcake, maybe they're teaching them how to grow their own strawberries, right? And that's a natural collaboration. And in the YouTube shorts of that, there's a lot of ways you can have fun with it, You can help that audience by staying focused. You can be clear. You can make it easier to plan. And a YouTube short is very simply, can I teach this baking channel how to grow their own strawberries? Let's find out. And so those are some of those easy wins that you can do. Now, as I pull up the Opus Clip YouTube channel, one thing you're going to notice first is I need to zoom in, but two, you're going to notice some of those kind of content themes, right? And this is, again, we have tutorials, we have these live streams, we have lots of playlists that can help, right? So new to Opus Clip, start here, create a roundup. We have lots of different things that are built to help you understand different things, right? Like We talked about this feature a little bit. Auto import, we talked about that. You might see a familiar face. I see Must Play Reviews says this guy knows his stuff. I'm up to 950 subs now with his info and hard work. No, Must Play Reviews. That's all your hard work. I'm just so happy that you did the work, and I'm glad that you take a listen. And thank you so much for the kind words. I truly appreciate it. But of course, that's your hard work, and the hard work that we put on the Opus Clip channel, you can put on your own, right? So each video has a different need and different focus, right? Like auto import is a newer feature, and we wanted to show people how you can bring your YouTube videos automatically into Opus Clip. Anime videos tutorial was something that we noticed our audience was super interested in, and our guy Dan made a really great video. Then we had, a video on how you make different captions, right? So this is this is more of a hero video where it's broad appealing. It meets the moment. Where this one and this one are more like if you are regularly expecting content on Opus, it's more hub based, right? So when we're making shorts on these, this would be a really good YouTube short to show not only this feature to our core audience, but to go broader. A lot of people may not know of this feature. Similar with this one, we designed these in mind so that they can go broader, and hopefully when we're making the shorts, they're still relevant to the information we're talking about, but it gives us a little bit more information that we can go. So you can see how we stay focused, right? We have some that are for everyday Opus Clip users. We have some that go a little bit broader. So like if you're a podcaster and you're trying to get ahead, we have content for that. If you're trying to make money, we have content for that. We have tools that'll help you increase your watch time. We have a lot of content here that is designed to help, right? Like we got questions. This is a more hero piece, which was, can you monetize AI content on YouTube? Well, if you'd like, you can check the card on screen now. I got to remind myself in the future to put that there. But the whole point is, right? We talked about those content buckets and content themes, and you can kind of see them, and you can see how they helped us stay focused. We're consistent, but we're getting to talk about a wide variety of different topics, some that are more Opus Clip focused. But when it comes to your channel, if you're watching, what kind of channel do you have, right? You can do it. So if you're a gaming channel, like some great examples of different buckets for YouTube themes and content are like gaming channels can do reviews, they can do compilations of best moments from a game, and if they're funny, that's even better. I know that I said you just shouldn't post funny things, but if it's funny within like your game of choice, that's great. Tutorials, also a great thing. If you can say, are you struggling with this thing in this game? Here's how you can find it quickly now. Really helpful, really effective. If let's say you're a fitness creator, workouts, quick workout sets, maybe it is just a sped up video version of your video, but it's just the reps that you want them to do. That's still valuable, still giving info, and it's just a different way to approach the content. You could also give nutrition tips. You could, if you want to maybe cook, you can, maybe you're passionate about fitness and cooking. That's a subtle way to bring in that cooking angle so that you can talk about that thing you're super passionate about as well as your fitness journey. And on stories, you should also reply to comments. You should use Opus Clip to pull up motivational stories that you're seeing, and you can really integrate that well. And if you're a business creator, how-to tips, success stories, industry news, I can't tell you how much you can do with shorts and with Opus to really bring those things together. Now, if you're in chat, type one topic that you think would be a strong bucket for your YouTube channel. What is something that you are really passionate about? On my personal channel, a lot of times it's talking about how to get better audio. It's talking about how to be a better creator, right? So for me, a recent one that did really well was just how to use your phone as a microphone. It's very simple. It's one of those things that people want to know, and it doesn't take a lot of time, but it led to a lot of good results. So it's one of those things when you are thinking of topics, when you're thinking of these different things, they can really help you out. Hey, Stanley Orchard, good to see you as well. So if you're just joining or you're still watching that replay, I just asked, what's one topic that you think could be a very strong bucket for your personal YouTube channel, a personal theme? Let's build a few of those examples, maybe even live. So, we talked about all the things I said. We talked about why random YouTube shorts fail. We talked about finding your content themes or buckets. And now let's actually go using Opus Clip to find out how we can kind of find those high performing moments. And I think when you find those moments, it is so important. And it's not just about finding them, it's about identifying them effectively. It's about going that next step, right? So, one of the things I've noticed, and this is true for a lot of creators I've worked with, is that some of your best shorts can often come from long form moments, but it can be hard to spot them when you're very close to the content. I'm very guilty of this. I am sometimes like, there's no YouTube shorts I could even make of this video, but it turns out a lot of times there are. And I think that that's a common thing because we're sometimes a second pair of eyes is really what you need. I am guilty of just, there's nothing here. I've created this content, it's good, but there's not really much I could do. But the reality is there is. And I think that that is a common creator struggle that I just truthfully have fallen into myself, but that doesn't mean that it's bad, right? So what I will say is we're going to go through from the top to the bottom in case you've never used Opus Clip. And if you haven't, welcome. Happy to have you here with us. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen again, and let's go ahead and pull that back up. So let's do this. So here we are with Opus Clip. We're going to click these three dots. I'm going to just grab it to grab a link. We are going to look, we are going to AI finds hooks, highlights, and turns videos into viral shorts. So there's a couple ways you can do it. You can just drop it here. It'll do it that way. You could use this button. And again, it doesn't have to be a YouTube link. There's many links that Opus supports. So if we want to do this, we could just pull up this. Ooh, interesting. Hopefully that is upload. Well, sometimes things like that can happen, but don't worry. Do not worry, we have some already. So we're just going to pull from our library of content. And so let's talk about a different strategy, right? So that's how you can pull them in. So this was a video I asked for captions on. I was just looking to get captions so I could pull this into my video, but it's also a great way that you can review your own videos. What do I mean by that? Well, if you want to know how your videos are doing, this is a long form piece. It'll give you an idea. So the hook, you provided a strong introduction by directly addressing potential views with valuable content about YouTube tools, but consider starting with a more engaging question or a bold statement to truly captivate your audience. That's a great pair of eyes just to take a look at what you're doing, right? And the reason we're talking about this is a good way to identify high performing moments in Opus Clip. The next one is flow. The video provides a smooth, logical flow from one tool to the next, effectively connecting each concept and maintaining audience engagement. However, you can enhance clarity by explicitly summarizing the benefits of each tool at the end. Again, that's a great opinion, and that's something I can use to get better at. And so, we're talking about how Opus Clip can come in. We're talking about how it can help you make better content. This is just taking a second look at what I've already done and reading it further. So as we see here, this video provides smooth. Let's go to value. The video effectively highlights valuable tools for creators while creating an engaging experience through clear descriptions and relatable scenarios. To further enhance emotional appeal, consider sharing more personal anecdotes about your experience with these tools. And that's actually something I've done recently in a video where I talked about my experience of being a VidCon speaker and how I had to really quickly turn around from getting the opportunity to getting there live. And I think that's one thing I'm learning about myself. And, let's all be like, there's a line between where you are just giving great information and when you're being personal. And I feel like I've leaned too heavy in information. And I'm trying to pull the other way to not only give information, but to be personable, to be relatable, to be emotional, to be that creator. Now, speaking of being personable, let's look at the chat. Must Play Review says, I feel like tips and tricks for games and even a quick overview for games or even the best way to set up a game option setting like brightness or control fixes. That is great if you're a gaming creator. And I think like those simple things, maybe it's not a full dedicated video, but to make a YouTube short about it is the perfect middle ground where you're still talking about it, but it didn't really need a dedicated video. Or if you're doing an overview, clip out each of those moments for YouTube shorts. Keep in mind, you could use them in a YouTube short. Opus Clip actually has a thing where if you're a gamer and maybe you're speaking to camera and you have the game under you, where it can help you make those shorts. So I really love that piece of advice there, Must Play Reviews. Great job. And thanks for sharing. As we continue to go, the last one is trend, right? The video content effectively introduces valuable tools for YouTube creators, resonating well with its target audience of aspiring and existing YouTubers. Though, and this is the important part, it could benefit from deeper exploration of current trends in the YouTube ecosystem. Very fair point. And I use this a lot. So even if you're just, wanting a second opinion, you could just put in AI captions, you could do lots of things, it's still helpful, right? So this one is a video we did on the channel. You can see, there I am again, but you can see what we're looking for, right? It's good to have the second pair of eyes just so that I can really better understand and explain. And you can see too, right? Like that's the whole point here. And when I'm like looking here, trying to get this, you can really see the value and it gives us a lot to focus on and think about. And this one I did a lot better, and I'm always aiming to improve. Like, I'm not going to say I'm perfect, but when you do these things, it tells you how you did. It's that virality prediction. The virality score really can help you understand how the clip will likely perform. But for normal YouTube videos, it's just as important that you have a good, thumbnail, you have a good title. But for shorts, it's more about title and it's about that engaging visual hook. We also, a lot of times, we'll talk about hooks. And there's two, if you don't know, when it comes to YouTube shorts, there are two kind of hooks. There are a common hook, which is this. This is just me talking to camera. There's also the visuals. With Opus Clip, you can use AI B-roll, you can use stock footage B-roll, you can add images, you can shoot your own. But the thing is, when it comes to hooks, a hook is the thing that hooks a viewer to keep watching. It doesn't just need to be verbal, it also should be visual. YouTube Shorts, YouTube videos are a visual and verbal medium, audio and video. So the better you can get at both of those, the better results you're going to see. And that is something that I really can't stress enough. Now, here's something to keep in mind when it comes to, the content you're creating, right? We've talked about, virality score in Opus. Okay, so I want to just quickly, because I think we are back, and that's what I want to focus on. So why don't we go through, and I'm going to be using that link that I showed off a little bit earlier. We're going to go ahead, zoom on in. Hopefully you can see this. So we have the link. You can see the speech language. You can see the credits. Using the video you don't own. Keep in mind, people ask us this all the time. If you don't own the video, you may be violating copyright laws. By continuing, you're confirming this is your own original content. And if you aren't, just keep that in mind. Now, this is you could argue this is marketing and webinar. You could say this is informative and educational. It's definitely talking head and speech, I'd say. And so this is a live stream that I've done, similar to the one you're watching, whether live or in the replay. And you can see that, we're finding these moments. We're finding these things that make sense. And so it'll pull from emotional story, top moment, viral snippets. Each of these has its own unique skill that it's going to do for Opus, right? And that's the beauty of this. So now that we have it, we could ask it to do even more, compile all the hilarious moments, find the goals scored. So maybe that's something there. I want to do this for YouTube Shorts, and I want this for the Opus channel. So you see we have the Opus Clip template. And a cool thing about this is it'll have, dynamic captions, which goes to those visual hooks. We talked about hooks, both, audio and visual. And so, captions on screen could definitely be a visual hook. And then we could say, we could leave it to what it is, or we could say, find all the best sections you think would be good for YouTube Shorts, TikTok, or IG Reels. And now we've given it a prompt. It's going to scan this. We could save the settings as a default, but now I just hit get clips and one click. And as it is going in the background, I can easily just communicate with you and see how by using Opus, this is loading in the background. It says that right now I have only a few minutes before I'm ready to review these clips. And I just wanted to take this moment to really kind of just say we found some high performing moments and clips and scores by just looking at it. So even if you're not asking Opus to make shorts, you can use it as a way to get feedback from someone or something. Now, one thing I'd also recommend is there's a lot of communities that offer feedback areas and sections. I run a community. Opus has a very helpful community. And so it's one of those things that finding that extra set of eyes, that extra opinion can be very helpful. Now, it doesn't mean that it's not going to, be 100% accurate, and sometimes, because it is a prediction, right? And it's up to what you do. For shorts, I tend to find that I love the hook score. It's really useful and helpful, but it's also based on what I title. But Opus can help you with that, and we'll show that off in a bit. But it also, it helps you in so many ways. So we talked about the importance of, building a smart strategy that you can stick to a little bit earlier. And here's some of the things that you can start today when it comes with a strategy. Pick 2 to 3 content themes. We went through those a little bit earlier, but if you're just joining, if you're a gamer, maybe it's tutorials, maybe it's funny moments with your friends in the game. Maybe it is a little bit of background info. So things like that. Then create a playlist or a series for each one of the content themes. YouTube would call this content hero, help, and hub content. That's how they think of that kind of situation. Then I would recommend posting 1 to 2 shorts per week around each bucket and then fluctuate them. See what works best for your unique audience. Not every audience is the same. I see this constantly. Well, this creator posted this and they're getting thousands of views and I'm only getting 2. Well, they might have a bigger audience. They might have a difference that we don't see. You can't compare yourself to other creators when you don't know the full story. Comparison is the thief of joy, to quote Teddy Roosevelt. However, it can be useful for you to watch, observe, practice, get better. Look at those Opus Clip virality scores. So if I was to give you a quick example of ways that you could practice, here's maybe an example. Maybe on Monday, it's a tutorial short, going back to the gaming example. Maybe it's Wednesday, it's a behind the scenes of you trying to get gameplay footage. And maybe Friday, it's just a moment with your friends. It's a funny clip, funny short Friday or something. And then all of a sudden, you have a little more clear strategy and a little more focused. And if we go to the other examples I gave, maybe you are that fitness creator, right? Maybe it's workout Wednesdays for those shorts. It's motivational Monday, and then it's fundamental Fridays. Because here's the thing, you can't, or form Fridays, where you teach people proper form. Like, form is so important when it comes to fitness. So that's a great way that you could really hop into those different kind of planning stages. And then with Opus Clip, if you already have a lot of backlog content, I guarantee you, and I'm guilty of this too, and I still go back to some of the videos I published and I run it through Opus to find shorts, because sometimes I'm like, I would have never thought of that as a short, but let's try it. And that's, I hate to admit it, that's how I've gotten some of my best YouTube shorts, is just because I didn't see the value. Because again, I talked about this earlier, sometimes you're just a little bit too close. Welcome, the Juice Radio and the Juice Radio and Talk Show. Good to see you. Pearl, great to see you as well. Friendly can-do creator coming in. The KDCC is showing up. It does also depend on how much you create those videos. Reaction content versus our content are very different posting schedules. Yes, and thankfully though, they are also both art focused. We talked about that a little bit earlier, right? Sometimes if you're reacting to something not in your niche, or it doesn't have a clear through line to what you're doing, that can also be a little challenging as well. So I think that that's something that is also important that we discuss is, when should you lean into something that's working, and when is it no longer, really what you're trying to do? I've seen an example of this. This was a creator who was a 3D printing channel, and they started reacting to other people's 3D prints. But then the problem was they kept reacting to 3D prints for cooking. And they found themselves that if they weren't talking about 3D prints like that were reacting to cooking specific prints, it wasn't working well. And so I had to take a moment. Is that what you're trying to do? And they're like, what do you mean? And I said, are you trying to be the 3D print cooking react channel? And they went, no, not at all. And I'm like, so what if we make your own 3D printing cooking tools? And like, you talk about that process. And they took a moment, they took a beat, they started creating the content. Guess what? All those people that came for the cooking content, then they're like, hey, if you want to see other builds I do. So they found something that was doing really well, but they pushed the needle back to their focus. So you can absolutely do that with YouTube Shorts. They made a lot of shorts about it. They talked about how, they could become part of their 3D printing school, their course. And it made sense. And all of a sudden, all these people who were, again, looking for 3D printed cooking accessories, and that's what I love about YouTube. There's always a niche you don't know about. There's always something. I remember helping them and I'm like, this is such a cool sub. Like you found your way into a niche of a niche that I never knew existed, and they were getting good views, they were getting good interest. But when they pulled back, and again, they now had all this cooking audience and they showed them what else they could do with 3D printing, it brought that audience over. They were more focused again. And when they started making that content that wasn't that reacting, they were able to do better because another thing, people started liking it for them. It wasn't just the reactions. Maybe that's how they found them, but they got deeper. And you can make those deep connections. So, again, what we're doing here is when you batch create with Opus Clip, when you go and run through your older videos, you're going to be able to make up to, I've had 25, 30 different YouTube shorts I could pull from. And then you're going from maybe taking an hour to create, a YouTube short if you're really dedicated and really into it, to all of a sudden Opus can help you make 10 to 15 different ones, and then you can schedule them out on YouTube or TikTok or wherever you want. You can use Opus's scheduler, you can use the auto import feature, which I've hinted at, but there's so much, into that there. So there's a lot that you can do when it comes to your genre, your niche. I see Pearl put in the chat. Admittedly, that's why I'm branching out reading Reddit stories with the art in the background. That's also a different way you could, combine two things. I know that some artists do storytime art where they are, which is an incredible skill on a side note. Being able to draw effectively and tell a story and be engaging on camera, like that's what I tell people. Like a lot of times people are like, "Oh, you're just playing video games." No, you're not. You're entertaining. You're having to be at least decent enough at the game to talk about it, and you're adding so much value. So I always say that YouTubers and creators have so many different skill sets, and a lot of times we're guilty of just not acknowledging all the things it takes to do the things that we get to do. And practice doesn't make perfect, in my opinion, it makes better. And we're all getting better one day at a time. So I see from Must Play Reviews, same with game reviews. I would like to do more videos, but some of these games take 40 to 50 hours to beat. I've had to diversify some of my content, adding new videos and others. Absolutely. And that's a common thing I see too. Take hours for you to do the things that you want to do with your content. I know for the 3D print channel, one of the things that we're struggling on was like, hey, it can sometimes take a long time for these things to print. And I remember we had a conversation. I'm like, why don't you just live stream the prints and have background music? And that was now a feed that they're doing, and it's surprisingly, their community show was up. It's not 24/7. They do it randomly, but it became a thing where they could just talk for an hour or two, have some chill music in the background, and the audience loves it. You never know what you could do. Sometimes I've seen creators when they do like long form, things like that, where if you're doing a game review, they'll live stream themselves playing the game so that they can later, in the review, people are like, oh, I remember this moment in stream, or oh, this was so funny. So there's lots of ways you can create content. And I think that obviously speed is the most important. If any of these things are slowing you down in your final result, that's something to take in mind, but it is something to do. Now, I talked about earlier how we're going to show Opus Clip. This video is done. It's been done for a bit. I just got a little yappy. But it's finishing out its render here. And so there we are. When I click in, one thing I want to talk about is retention. And retention is everything. If people are swiping away, if things are not reaching what people need, right? It's very important, right? So there's a couple ways you can view Opus Clip. This is the grid view. I like list view, which is the more familiar view to me. And I like looking here, right? This is announcing the YouTube Shorts update is informative. Consider framing as a direct benefit to creators. So similar to the gamers we talked about. Sup gamers. God, I anytime I see gamers, I'm like sup gamers in my head. That's just I think we can. Oh, I think I might be a little bit too zoomed in. Ooh, there we go. Very familiar with the editor. So here's what I'm going to do. We're going to reframe this a little bit. Keep in mind this is low res for the preview. And I want to, I want to expand this a little more. And I know you can do this. I think it might be the crop tool. Yes. So I want to show this. And here's, this is me actually using the tool and how I would do this. I'd focus on all the parts that are the most important, apply. This then makes this a little easier to read. And again, we could, move it over just a bit. And you can see how easy this is. This did not take a lot of time. Now, I would maybe review a little closer, like where the text is getting cut off, but I think that's pretty good. Now, if you don't like this black space, which I'm not a fan of myself, you can add your own images in the background, right? So, if I want to, and again, we're just now editing, but I also want to point attention to this is identified at like gameplay. So, if you're wondering how Opus Clip can bring in your gameplay for like a 9:16 format, here's exactly how they could do it, right? And we talk about the changes to views and YouTube Shorts. We have me, so if they're like, who the heck is even on screen? Well, now they can see. And if I want, I could also punch in a little bit more on myself here. And so that's a good way to do it. We have this. And so all of a sudden, we have made a YouTube short that is talking about the YouTube Shorts changes, which is shorts on shorts on shorts. But again, something to do. So, something to think about. Now, another thing, as I mentioned, and I've seen some people not know this, is if you want, you can easily upload your own footage. You click the upload, you can add images, you can drag and drop. So if I want to pull something in, maybe I want an Opus Clip background or I want my own background, I could easily do this. This would be for the Opus Clip YouTube channel, so it would make a lot of sense. It was Opus Clip themed, so that's something I can do too, right? I can bring in the Opus Clip background here, just drop that in. It's going to upload it here. Opus Clip background, put that, I can add this as a timeline. Can put this here. We can drag and drop. And now with the Opus Clip of it all, here's where I can move this over a little bit, bring in the Opus Clip, put that there. Hold on, don't want to lose it. Sometimes you can get too in your creative touches. Oh, no wonder it's not showing. I don't have it. I don't have it in that frame. So here we are. Perfect. I can now crop this to maybe be a little more Opus Clip focused. Good. Another thing I could do, oh, my bad. So as I'm editing, right, I want to make sure that I'm not overtaking something. So I could put this in the background if I wanted. I don't actually think I will for this one. That is a choice I have though. So if I want, I can just delete by hitting the delete. But I think, oh, I didn't mean to grab the captions. Gotta be careful when I'm dragging. That's my bad. But I think like if I wanted to, that is something I could do. I think this would be better though. And this is something to keep in mind as well, as if we have those kind of captions where we put them. So maybe, you know, now here's where we get a little interesting. I'm going to watch. And this is where like we talked about editing and all the different things that you can do to help a YouTube short. So this is where I could maybe, because I transition, and as you can see, that was more on me here. I would definitely remove this. Oh, I removed everything. But don't worry, your keyboard shortcuts do still match here. So maybe I just drag this version over, put it here, and then what we can do is you can actually add some transitions. So maybe I hide it with some B-roll. So what I could do would no, I believe it's obviously it's where big is. This is a big, and I could, click on it. I could add B-roll. I could add stock B-roll because I could do that to help this. And yes, shortception is correct. We're talking shorts on shorts on shorts. Now we're making YouTube shorts, right? And as we're making these YouTube shorts, I think that like you could see the different ways Opus Clip is helpful in just even this, right? One thing I want to talk about is I'm, loading in this B-roll where it brings it in. So it's trying to get my stock B-roll. I hit stock, so big, add B-roll, add stock B-roll. There it goes. Auto generating some stock B-roll options. So now, if I wanted to, I'm not sure how good this this example in particular is for, again, sometimes I guess it went on the big, and ooh, I definitely need to put myself in a better position. I think that's better, he says, hopefully. Another thing I could do is I've seen that the fill type is just this. I can switch off of gameplay and go to fill. And that might actually be better for this instance, because then I can crop it to be a little bit like this, hit apply. I think that's actually a better way to do it. So we go from gameplay, we go to stock B-roll, which maybe I could say big changes in market. I don't know. Big changes. I'll just type in big changes, right? Let's see what happens. It's going to do its best. Oh, I mean, maybe I write big written, like really emphasize that point. Again, we're just having some fun now. But if you have any questions, if you're enjoying this live stream, whether you're watching live or in the replay, there's a lot that we can do. Maybe, bears are big. Why not? We'll just have a fun image of a bear. And if I want to, right? If I'm watching, I could actually add in a transition because I kind of think that this might be helpful. So let's go ahead and fade between these two. So we'll fade. Here we are with a bear. From how YouTube was handling it before. I mean, there we go. And one thing I would say is, as we're over here now, another thing we could do is for this section, we could put the captions, and I love that there's a safe zone. And it should, yep, it'll keep what was there before. And it keeps up with all that. And actually, that's actually really good. So we're going to save that and use it on the Opus Clip YouTube channel later. But it goes to show we actually use the stuff we're talking about. And, we always lead with action or a tip. And this is more tutorial based. And you can see how quickly that was put together. You could see that another feature I talked about, which we could go in on, is if we go back in and edit this clip, it's identified there was a moment of some dead air right here, pause time. You can hit remove all pause, and then all of a sudden it's a little bit tighter. We'll hit save. Now you notice it may have, where I hit it may have changed it a little bit, so we'll just make sure that it's perfect, because I did hit it pretty quickly. I wasn't paying close attention to what I was doing. That's more on me. But then, we see the hooks, right? Breaking down complex topics, YouTube Shorts, views, huge changes coming, no minimum watch time. If I want, I can regenerate these titles. And let's zoom in a little bit more so you guys can see it a little clearly. So, let's say Opus Clip, 2 ways to create viral captions and clips. I can make this, let's make this a little more catchy. And the AI will go ahead, and it's said, captions made easy, no clips needed. I could do catchy again. So yeah, this is really helpful caption magic and get captions fast and free. I don't know if I'd use that, but it's something you could definitely experiment with. So now, because I want to use this, I want to review it again. Oh, I am way too zoomed in. I think that's a pattern, but I think that was just that moment, as I'm actually watching this. There we go. There we are. Actually perfect. So we'll just make sure this is ready, and now you'll be able to watch this on Opus Clip if it makes sense. And notice how the virality score keeps changing. Now, again, this is a low res preview just because we're in the preview view. But all of these, it's letting me know, right? This trend is a B. This clip is general acknowledgement and overview and not necessarily time sensitive. I love this kind of feedback. And as you go down, you'll see why some are better than others, right? So number 17, we can really scroll down and see lots of clips that it was able to generate, right? This one is not super great. Why? Acknowledging community contributions is great, but try leaving a more engaging statement. And this trend introduces the Opus Clip website and social post scheduler, which is useful for viewers, but might not be currently trending. And again, if you just want that quick view, one thing you can do is just look at it here. If you like this kind of grid view, you can also filter, which I tell people this, YouTube Shorts analytics. Maybe I want to go to view count change, YouTube analytics, find all the moments where I talk about hook highlights, right? I can go to my Q&A moments. If I'm looking for specific tips, going back to our schedule, right? Maybe it's identified some tip moments. And then it's just really helpful to find these different moments with the filters. I could download everything if I really want to. I could sort this clips chronologically. I like to do it by the score. But again, now we have this video, this short that I can post to the Opus Clip YouTube channel. And again, it's in our bracket we talked about earlier. It is in the bracket of this is a tip and tutorial that is very useful to most creators, and that this video, this short didn't make sense for me to individually make. It could take a little bit of time, but I've already talked about it and it's super useful all years around. So great. And I can use YouTube's own features so that I can redirect to the live stream if people want to see it. And we go live bi-weekly here on the Opus Clip YouTube channel. Definitely subscribe if you'd be interested. Now, I want to make sure that we have talked about pretty much anything and everything. And again, we've learned how to build a smarter YouTube short strategy with repeatable and results-driven results. We've seen the importance of the virality score, how you can look at multiple YouTube shorts at once, how you can do a little bit of light editing. We talked about hooks, both not viral, but visual and audio. And you can use Opus Clip to find your content themes or buckets. You can use Opus Clip to find those best moments. You can build a simple posting schedule, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, learn, experiment, look at what is happening. We talked about some of the YouTube Shorts changes, so that's going to be super important when you're looking at these things. And you can improve your hooks when you look at that kind of deeper data with Opus Clip. So if I wanted to look at this one, right, we talked about the importance of a hook. That's a great start to a discussion about YouTube success. Perhaps lead with a bold question about audience aspirations to grab attention. So we've learned how Opus Clip can not only be used for general content, but how it can also help give you a next set of eyes. And so if you're really liking what we're talking about, you're not going to want to miss the next stream where we're going to talk about how you can turn your shorts viewers into loyal subscribers that not only watch shorts, but long form, and ways that you can help bridge those gaps. If you enjoyed this live stream, we do this bi-weekly. I'm Andrew Can. I wanted to thank you for watching and Opus Clip for having me. I hope you have a great rest of your day or night or wherever you are.